Good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. I know we're like a minute or two late. Something's going on with the technology. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's Zoom. I don't know what's going on, but happy Wednesday to everyone. Good morning, Lori.
Good morning, Lauren. You know the old adage, you just reboot it and it's all going to be okay. I was enough of a Luddite before technology came into being that the whole, just reboot concept didn't exist before. And I remember working on, computers was all rebooting. And I remember one day back in the time, my vacuum cleaner stopped working and I thought, oh, just reboot it. So yeah, you reboot, you're good to go.
I guess that's different from like hitting it, right?
Well, sometimes reboot requires a good kick in the what. So I think there's some truth to that as well. Lauren, I'm so glad you came back. I almost wondered what was going to happen, but everybody, she's back. I'm here. So hopefully we won't have any issues going forward. So I'll let you take over from here, Lauren.
Thank you, Lori. I guess, numbers are starting to steady, and I know we have a really great speaker today, or guest today. So let me go ahead and dive into the introduction. As everyone continues to come in, welcome to you. Good morning. And here we go. Good morning again. My name is Lauren Simpson, and I'm with the Sbdc, or the Small Business Development Center. We're a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country. And we offer no-cost services for local small businesses. And they're at no cost to you because your tax dollars have already taken care of our fees. So you might as well take part in our resources. For the Los Angeles network, which is the network that I represent, we have locations, or Sbdc centers, throughout the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. So if you reside or your business resides in any of those counties, we are here to help you. You can see those locations here on our map, but again, we cover the entire region, so Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. Be sure to get in contact with us so that we can help you out and get you some assistance. Here's a deeper dive into what it is that we do. I mentioned assistance. We offer no-cost business advising, and so you're able to sit one-on-one with, virtually, right? One-on-one with a business expert, or you might even be lucky enough to sit with our gurus, i.e. Miss Lori Williams here, who is the guru of all numbers. If you have any questions regarding numbers, any fears when it comes to numbers, she's your lady. She's the one you'll want to get connected with. We also have experts in marketing, as well as business planning, market analysis, you name it, we've got it. And it's free. We also offer free virtual trainings, much like the training you've joined today. So again, we're here to help you along your entrepreneurial journey. Be sure to get in contact with us today. Our number is 866-588-7232. Or you can go online, smallbizla.org/new client. If you are outside of any of the counties that we serve, you can go to americassbdc.org/find your SBDC. With that, I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share. Quick housekeeping. Please put any questions into the Q&A. Again, questions into the Q&A. The chat's going to be reserved for any sort of comments you'd like to leave or feedback, as well as important links that I will share with you from Lori, as well as from our guest speaker. And with that, Lori, I think I've covered it on my end. I am going to hand it over to you. Good morning again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lauren, and good morning to you. I got a short intro, not a lot I'm going to talk about today. I do want to make mention to the fact that we got a business plan class coming up, and Andrew Cohen, who is also our guest this morning, is going to be teaching it. He's going to get into some more specifics about that. I want to talk about next week. We got Joey Harmon of Harmon Research. Very interesting story, like so many of my guests. Joey's going to share insights gained and financial decisions that were made that actually totally changed the direction of the company. So the suspense is there. Tune in next week to learn more about that. Now, for this week, I'm very excited, as I always am with my special guest, but this week, Andrew Cohen wears many hats. First of all, he's my esteemed colleague at the Pasadena Sbdc. So I'm very excited to have my esteemed colleague here with me. But he's also the CEO of Work Better Now, a company that provides virtual assistance to small companies. I'm very excited to have Andrew on the show. Is the information that he shares really comes from two perspectives. One, the perspective of being an advisor and what he shares with his clients, and two, the perspective of being a company owner. I guess you could say that he walks the talk. That old expression, actually walks the talk. So Andrew, I am so excited to have you on the show. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, hello.
Oh my God, it seems like we've been talking about having you on the show forever. I can't believe we're here. Okay.
You finally slotted me in. Thank you.
I finally got you to agree. And you know what? I know Annie's out in the audience and she'll be able to confirm that. We'll get something in the chat saying from Annie saying, yep, you finally got him to agree to a date. Okay, so we got to start out by going through something. Andrew, Annie just put, yay, Andrew. I told you she was out there. I knew.
Hi, Annie.
Have to look. I knew Annie was out there. Okay. So first of all, guys, we got to share some interesting aspects about Andrew's background. Okay, we got to unpack some of this. So Andrew, you worked on Wall Street as a trade analyst for Bear Stearns.
I did.
In the entertainment industry, as a vice president of production and business affairs for Once Upon a Time Films. Now, in my world, that's two different people. That's like a really number person, which I can relate to, and the really entertaining, flighty person that I don't relate to. But anyway, tell us, I mean, obviously these two careers gave you a lot of insight that you took forth on your entrepreneurial journey. So why don't you give us some background on that and what you took from it?
Sure. I graduated from college in 1991. I can't believe it. And I went straight to Wall Street. I wanted to be a trader. And I got a job at Bear Stearns, which was at that time, it's no longer in existence, but at that time, one of the top investment banking companies in the world. And I was a trade analyst for Ace Greenberg, who, again, during that time was one of the most well-known traders. And so I was doing his P&L and with profit and loss statements and going through his trades and making sure everything went through correctly. And I realized after a couple of years that this is not something I want to do. When I was reading the paper, I was more looking towards the entertainment field, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna move to LA and get in the film business, and I did. But you know, it's funny. I took my financial prowess to Hollywood, and I became a business affairs specialist and a production specialist, which is really dealing with budgets, building teams, hiring people, and I negotiated contracts with artists, with agents. So I really took all of my financial experience to Hollywood with me.
So in many ways, it really was similar, because I have been around the entertainment industry enough to know that it runs like a regular business. There's all these other aspects that go into it. So that makes sense. Okay, so well, we've got to add another part. So I cannot leave this part out. Okay, guys, he's an avid martial artist, a classic car and motorcycle enthusiast. And here we go on this one. Distinction of winning a World Series of Poker gold bracelet. You got to tell us now, what is it that you brought from those experiences to your advising? I've got to go there and find that out.
Well, true and true. If we start, martial arts to me was a foundation for me. I started when I was very young, and I've studied in a ton of different styles of martial arts. And I think focus and training and it just creates a foundation for who you are as a person. And I really love martial arts. I love all different aspects of it. I love learning new martial arts. And it was just, it's been a big part of my life. Classic cars and motorcycles, they're just fun. So I still have, I have two motorcycles right now, that one of which I built, one of which I designed and someone else built for me. But I love riding. I love that adrenaline rush. Poker has probably a really big aspect of how I address business. And you might think, people think of poker as gambling. What I think of poker is as taking all the information that you have in front of you and making the best possible decision. And that's how I evaluate business decisions as well. We never have all of the information, but we need to make the best decisions we can based on the information that we have in front of us. And that really correlates to poker. And I was lucky enough to win a World Series of Poker bracelet back in a long time ago. But and I don't have as much time to play anymore as I did when I was, before this business or before my other businesses. But I really feel like there's a big application for the skills that I learned in poker to business today.
See that, that's why we always got along. Me being a avid climber, a rock climber, an ice climber. I mean, I've been involved in dangerous things and I know about liking the thrill, but it really was about strategy. It was strategy in the fact that if you made a mistake, you died, so there's a little bit of the game. I like that, I was like, okay.
Mine's not.
Yeah, it's like, do it well or die. Or, I always said I didn't care about dying. I cared about being maimed. So I would make sure whatever I climbed was so dangerous, if I fell, I would die. But I think going back to martial arts, I always used to say, because I got into bodybuilding when I was younger, and I always used to said, if I hadn't gone the route of bodybuilding, I would have went martial arts. And I really think that the takeaway, which is very applicable to being an entrepreneur, is that word that very few people use these days: discipline. Discipline in mind and body, I do think, is a key component to success. And I'm thinking that's a little bit of what you meant as well, if I don't put
I'm going to add, I'll add discipline. And one other word I'm going to add is preparation.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people jump into a business without being prepared, without having background or understanding. So I think discipline and preparation are two of the keys when starting a business, running a business, in life in general.
And you're younger than I found out you're not as much.
Not by much.
I always thought you were so much younger, but I'm going to show my age here. I won't put you in this, but I feel as though even more so now, people jump in too soon and go down avenues such as be incorporated too soon because they can easily, in the olden days, showing our age, you had asset intensive businesses. You had to have a certain amount of capital. You had to have an office. You had to have a staff. So you couldn't just overnight take some of the actions that people can today. So that whole thought process and strategy kind of gets missed a lot, which brings us to the next one. Let's tell the audience, what areas do you consult on as an SBDC advisor?
Sure. So first of all, I've been an advisor for about 5 years. I love it. I do it today because I still love meeting entrepreneurs and helping people with their businesses. I'm sort of a generalist, so I meet a lot of the clients that are looking to start businesses or grow their business. And I have a business plan workshop, which really is focused on helping new businesses and businesses looking for growth strategy create a comprehensive, realistic way to move forward. And everything that I talk about in these workshops is from experience. I never talk about things that I think should happen. I don't really teach from a teaching point of view, but rather, where I lived in this business world and the experiences I have. And those are what I like to share and relate to everyone. And it's, again, it's all about preparation and experience. And how are you going to bring that in your plan, get a detailed plan that you can work from and use it to move your company forward? Because I feel like before anyone starts a business, they need to sit down and ask themselves these important, difficult questions, put the time in, do the research, get the detail together on what's going to make them successful. And then once they figure that out, then they can think about starting that business.
And Lauren, can you put the information for Andrew's upcoming business plan class in the chat right now? So anybody, everybody in the audience, this is another no charge SBDC webinar. So please feel free to sign up. It's an excellent class. Andrew, we were talking a few sessions back about business plans. In fact, that's prompted me to start advertising your class because one of our guests was speaking about going through and the importance of a business plan. And I was talking about how all business plans aren't the same. Sometimes there's a business plan that has a certain components for an investor or a bank, and some are for internal. And a lot of people in the audience just thought a business plan is one of those templates you get and just fill it out, rather than something you do for its application. Can you speak on that a bit and give some clarification?
Sure. I think you said it perfectly. When you're approaching a business plan for your company, who's going to be the viewer of it? Sometimes we just write a business plan for ourselves. I always say first write it for yourself, and then if you're using it for another purpose, we can sort of massage it into where it's going. So, is it for you in order to understand how you're going to move forward with the company? Is it for your employees, right? Is it so they can understand what your vision, mission, and how you're going to operate this company and what the direction the company is for? Is it for a lender because you're trying to get financing or funding for your company? So there are so many different viewers of the plan, and it's really going to depend on what your use is. The most important thing to understand about a business plan is I never want someone to just write it and then put it down and never use it again. Yeah. It's living, which means it's always changing, right? You may change the direction of your business. We've seen it a lot during COVID that people were changing how their businesses were running. And so even in my last business, which was a men's skincare line, we had originally started selling direct to consumer online. We ended up lucking out and getting a department store chain through the Midwest all the way through the East Coast. And we had to rewrite the business plan because our whole entire strategy changed. Our whole entire financial model changed. Our marketing models have changed. And so we go back to the business plan, we rewrite that business plan, and then we check in with it every 6 months to make sure we're on track and we're hitting the milestones that we're looking for.
So true. I always say that years ago, companies could start with a single concept, and then the parents could have it and the grandkids, and it could be passed through because it doesn't change that much. But I remember writing an article one time that said, today's business model is almost like sandcastles on a beach. By the time the tide comes in, it's gone. It's a whole new one. Now, Andrew, this isn't something that you and I have collectively talked about what I'm going to say specifically, but it's my pet peeve. So you pick up on whether you go whichever direction you see. I see people that kind of write and they get real excited about writing the marketing and the vision and the mission, and then they throw some numbers together in the financials and they don't connect. And I always tell people that you should be reading the financials, and technically the financials is because I come at it from a financial perspective, and I come at it from looking at financial reports at the stock market and stuff. You look at the financials, and then you go to the commentary or the footnotes to get further detail on the financials. But either way, no matter how you look at it, there's got to be a connection. And I see that people just kind of look at it in two different platforms. Your thoughts on that subject? I
couldn't agree more. So when I'm teaching a business plan work, the whole thing about projections is where are those numbers coming from, right? The business plan is actually telling you where those numbers come from. When you look at the projections, there has to be an explanation. You can't just put numbers in there. So the plan has to explain where you're getting the numbers from. How are you getting the revenue, right? So where is the revenue coming from? In your business plan, you have to explain how you're generating that revenue. And that could even go through marketing and your marketing. You're going to invest X amount of dollars in marketing every month. That X amount should be put in your projections. Then we're going to have to understand, well, those X amount of dollars invested are going to generate Y in revenue, and that number is going to get put into your projection. Then if you're going to do all that, how much is that going to cost you for your COGS? We'll put that into how many people do you need to operate your business if you're doing that in revenue? So all the numbers are sort of going from your business plan into your projections, and you should be able to explain everything. And that's part of the process.
Thank you for that. I get so frustrated when people just do the 10% and take 10% and just run it through all the cells. Drives me up the wall.
No.
Well, now, Andrew, and this is something I've never delved deep in, so I'm as fascinated as the audience. Your company, tell us about it. What does it do? Who does it do it for? You started us off by I didn't mention it a lot. I wanted it to come fresh from you. So just tell us, what does the company do?
Okay, so my company is called Work Better Now. I started this company 4.5 years ago with literally my best friend from college. He lives in New York. We've known each other for over 30 years. We've never had a business together, but he's been in the small business world in New York. And I was doing, I had businesses, but I've been consulting with small businesses here. And we were together one day and we said to each other, every business should have an assistant. And Jack Daly, who's a huge sales spokesperson and speaker, his quote is, if you don't have an assistant, you are one. Okay. So we said, how can we do this? And at the time, my current partner had a virtual assistant, and we said, this is the model. So we started a company that sources amazing talent from Central, South America, the Caribbean, Mexico, to work virtually for US-based companies. And so really, we source remote talent that work for us for Work Better Now, and companies hire us to have full-time dedicated VAs that work in a variety of different areas.
Now that brings up a whole lot of questions. That's interesting. So with that, with them being from South America, and I'll just ask a bunch and you can fill out the blanks. Obviously, it's finding them, but also I have to wonder, of course, the first thought comes to my mind, is there cultural differences? Is there language differences? Is there just ways that Americans want a virtual assistant to work for them that would not be the same as they would in South America? You see where I'm going. I'm sure you get asked that. So fill it in some of the blanks on that.
Sure. So language is not really a major issue. All of our VAs are extremely well-versed in English. Culturally, there are some differences working for US-based and foreign-based, but a lot of US-based call centers are based in these other countries, and they get their first experience working culturally with these US companies. And we sort of bring them on as they get more experienced and they have a better resume and they're more acclimated to doing this type of job. The interesting thing is the role of virtual assistant has transcended what it was prior to the pandemic. So, prior to pandemic, people were concerned with how to work virtually, right? Can I use a virtual assistant, even if they're US based? And now we all have been working virtually for years. And we understand that the technology that we have these days, such as Zoom, like we're doing right now, we're able to easily work virtually. And now it's, can I work virtually with someone internationally? And what type of roles can they fill for my company? So the whole, and it's funny, you were talking about marketing earlier, and our whole marketing message had to change, because first we said, hey, we have a virtual assistant company and we'll show you how you can work virtually. That's no longer a barrier to entry. Right. Now it's, and then it was, now you can work virtually, hire a virtual assistant to be your executive assistant and admin. And what we found now, it's, hey, we can fill key members of your team in marketing, in billing, in social media, in operations, in a whole plethora of different roles. We have clients with 9 VAs in different roles throughout the country, throughout the company. It's been amazing.
Wow, interesting timing. So I had mentioned that Joey from Harman Research is next week. Well, he's a call center that has call centers down in other countries.
Right.
That calls into the US. So you actually did a preview of next week, and I understood exactly what you were saying when you mentioned that. So that is interesting about the VAs. Tell us then, when you think about it, when you talk about somebody in 9 roles, I immediately think of a bigger company, but this is also for small companies. So give us a feel like, can I as a consultant afford and use a VA, or where is it, the price points, etc., wherever you want to go on this, but give us an idea of your ideal clients and who else can use it and where you see the future of VAs going for different size companies.
So we started off small business, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs that need help, because again, if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. We made it affordable. It's $1,900 for a full-time dedicated virtual assistant, which means, it's very cost efficient for these US-based companies. They're paying less for our service than they would for someone in the States. But that's not what we're trying to offer: talent and great talent. So solopreneurs, consultants, coaches, are using VAs to do everything from running their invoicing to their social media, to interacting with clients and setting up appointments, calendar invites, checking emails. We have a lot of those companies. Then we have larger companies. We have delivery companies and shipping companies, which are using our VAs to do invoicing, dispatching, social media, customer relations, follow-up phone calls. It's been amazing. The size of the companies that have been using us, again, have gone from solopreneurs to 200 person plus.
Fascinating. Another part that I wonder how this plays in, especially with, and you'll know what I mean by AB5, and guys who don't know, AB5 is a ruling in California that makes it challenging for you to have an independent contractor if they're engaged in the course of the business, the usual course of the business. But also from the fact that we all know it's very costly to hire an employee and have the requirements for the taxes and the workman's comp and on and on. I can go on and on because that's something that small companies are now facing and very challenged by that. So I suspect that the virtual assistant is also helping because they are employees of you, not like if I was to hire them and it forgoes it. So tell us, I don't want to fill it in. Tell us about that.
We're a service provider for your company. So you're paying for our service and we're taking care of the VAs and all the responsibilities that we have in those countries. And so, if you were paying a typical person here on your payroll, not only do you have you have to pay their taxes, Social Security and whatnot. So there's probably a 20%, 25%, you can tell me better than I can tell, but addition to the salary that you're paying them. Whereas when you come to a service provider like us, it's a flat fee and there's no other responsibilities.
I know we had a question from the audience and I'm going to expand on it. The question was about whether there's positions requiring like licensed rep, like a healthcare insurance or something along that line. So let's expand. Is it just, I'm going to make the question a little bit bigger and broader. Is it more administrative assistance, or are there times where they have to have a certain degree or knowledge? They're getting engaged in things with licensing or finance or something along that line?
Again, it depends on the position. We have in the healthcare departments, we have VAs that are HIPAA compliant. We have VAs that are certified in QuickBooks or have marketing degrees. A lot of our VAs have college educations and are going for MBAs. So, we're talking really skilled and talented people that we're finding. And this is amazing to hear, we get about 3,000 applications, 3,000 to 3,600 applications a month. And we onboard 2% of those, sometimes less. So it's a really strict, stringent process in order to become one of our Work Better Now virtual assistants. We really look for the best of the best in these countries. They have amazing talent, and we're lucky enough to, I created. So we started this company with myself, my partner, and an assistant. And now we have 21 people on the team. And so I have a recruiting department, I have a marketing department, I have a sort of customer success department, I have a finance department, I have a project management department, I have a sales department. Don't let me forget my sales department. So I mean, literally, this was a crash course in hiring amazing talent, in scaling. We did all this. We literally went from, I want to say 40 VAs to 190 VAs in a year and a half. And I remember, and this is great, when I first started this business and I was in the room at the office with Don, and I said, Don, I have four VAs. He's like, that's great. And I said, yeah, I'm going to try to get to 20 by the end of the year or something like that. And again, I was working part-time when we first started this company, which is another thing that I really want to talk to all the business people out there that want to start businesses. I was working part-time in this business. I was working for the Sbdc. I was a business advisor for Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, which was a lot of hours. And especially when the pandemic hit, I was working for the SBDC. Like Lori really took over and did what she had to do. I don't even know how many hours you were working, but I felt like I was working, 60 hours a week just on SBDC and Goldman Sachs. And then I had my business. And once we got into a groove, my business started making money. I had to pare back, and I had to give up, unfortunately, the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business program, because it's amazing. And I highly recommend it to anyone who has a business out there and is looking to grow. And I had to scale back a little bit on the SBDC because, you have to put the time in to grow your business, to understand your business, to think about your business. I think that's one of the areas that I am learning to step into. We need time to think, and that's just downtime.
I tell you, and we're going to go back in a second because you said some things that I have to unpack. There was so many good nuggets in it. We're going to go back in a second. But before we do, you mentioned think. I just so much appreciate that. I was talking with an SBDC client yesterday, and I said, you need to sit down and think, because when they were coming up with these ideas, and I could tell they were just speaking without thinking, because when I fed them back to them, they made no sense, right? And so I said, you need to just sit down and think. And she goes, well, what book should I read to think? And I was like, just think, strategize. Those are words that us old timers grew up with, strategy and think, and they're not spoken enough. Don't push an app, just old fashioned thinking. But I want to go back and I want to unpack a whole bunch that you said before. When you started talking about the different departments that you have, one of the things that I communicate a lot, and this is how I say it in Lori's little words, but you can take it from here, that today's companies, since we're not big asset companies, the steel mill and the Rockefellers and everything. What I saw with the beginning of Amazon is we're process companies. It's the processes internally that create the competitive advantage and the selling value. And what I heard you say was you had to develop a lot of departments, which means you have to develop a lot of processes. So I want you to speak a bit on how processes are important. And also, if I'm going to just give the next one so I don't forget that you can launch from, hiring, firing, managing employees. That's something that I tell people, when you don't get it right, you just bring on your best friend because you don't want to look at any more resumes and you're so tired of it, it ends up in a disaster. So those are the two nuggets that were in that sentence, and I want to put it back to you to unpack it.
All right, I'm going to start with process. I agree with you. I think creating process is the most important thing we can do, and refining. So each one of my department heads is responsible for SOPs creating the process for their departments. And literally everything we do has a process. And in every department we have.
Put that in the chat. Everything we do has a process. Put that in the chat. Keep going.
Everything. And not only does it have a process, but it has a KPI, or a key performance index. It's a number associated with that process. So if I say let's talk about recruiting, easy one to talk about. We want to receive 100 and let's say 20 applications a day. So how many people do I have to have in order to go through those 120 applications, and what are they looking for? How are they accepting it? It literally starts from, this is how we're going to review each application. This is the number of applications you have to review in a day. Okay, that's for one person. That application is then yay or nay. If it's accepted, we move it to the next person. That person has different things they're looking for, right? And different pieces of information they need to obtain from the applicant. When all of those pieces are received, then they move to the next step where they're going to take a test. They'll be sent a link to take a test. When they take this test, we'll review that information. If they pass the test in these different areas, they move to the next phase. We need a percentage of the first people to move to the second. So we know that 2% in the end are going to be onboarded. We want to hope that the number of people the applications that we receive, let's say 30% of those applications will move to the second step. we want to understand that maybe 5% of those applications move to the third step. And by the time you get to the fourth step, we really want like 80% of those to be approved, because otherwise you're wasting time with the key people that the key people that are going through and making the hard decisions. And when you're making the hard decisions, it takes time. So quick, easy decisions, right? In the beginning, are they do they have the basics? That's an easy decision that we can go through. When you're making the hard decisions, it takes longer. So the longer it takes to make decisions, the less amount of decisions you can make in a day. Am I saying that clearly?
You are. In fact, I was going to say to the audience, guys, I love what you're saying, Andrew, because this percentage, I talked with the audience before of using the same analogy in sales. If you need X sales, if you take the process, you first get somebody on the phone, then you send them a proposal, then you send them this. I do a thing where it says, how many proposals will you send out? Oh, wait, how many calls do you have to get the proposals out? Wait a minute, how many things do you have to do to get the phone numbers? So I have the same thing where I do these percentages, because what I find is people say we want this result, but they have the activities lacking to get the result. And it's not until you go through this. So guys, SOP are standard operating protocols, and they are written. It's Andrew recited it from his head because he knows it, but it's written, and it's percentage of probability is what I talk about a lot. It's a percentage of probability to make sure that you get the goal. So you're saying it perfectly, and I love hearing it. And I used to always tell my private companies, I don't care what your size is, act as if there's 1,000 people in your company, and you can't yell over and go, hey Jim, what did the client say? Because what I would see, Andrew, when I did turnarounds a lot, is companies would start out with that kind of inner no processes type relationship. Then they would take off, but they didn't have those processes in place, and they would either lose traction or have to backtrack before they could go forward. And literally opportunity knocks on their door, and they weren't ready.
Yeah. I think first of all, Traction, which you just said, is an amazing book. I forgot who the author is. It's probably one of the best books I've ever read for business. And it's all based on setting up processes, procedures, and KPIs, or rocks, as they call them, numbers that we have to hit. So if you're looking for a read, Traction is amazing. But going back, so really, I'll tell you it was a circumstance that happened. We weren't recruiting at the rate that I thought we should be. And so I had at the time, I since replaced, but our director of recruiting run myself and the rest of his team through the process from point one, right? And this is where we were going to go over his SOPs, and we were going to go over every single process that everyone was doing in order to get to the person onboarded, right? And I wanted to make sure it was all written down, and everyone understood everyone else's roles. Because another important thing for us to understand is that if you don't know what the person in front of you is doing, or if you don't know what the person behind you is doing, you're not going to know what they need or how to help them. And so I thought it was important that everyone on that recruiting team knew what everyone else in the process was looking for, right? So hopefully that would help them do a better job. So we're in this process, and I'm getting explanations of the SOPs and or the procedures, and I hear someone say, "Well, we all do it a little different." And bing, 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 red flags go off. I'm like, "What? No, this is not what we do differently. We don't do it all differently. We all do it the same. So we have to figure out what is it that we're all going to do the same." And, we have to that's why we write these things out. And that's why we teach people and train people correctly, which I think might be one of the biggest areas of opportunity for companies. Spend the time to train your employees, because if your employees don't have that understanding and foundation for what your company is driving for, it's your fault. It's your fault for not letting them know.
You know, you're bringing back so many memories in my private consulting, turnaround consulting. I would come in and I would just go into a department and ask questions. Well, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And then I would go, well, but this person's over here is doing it. Well, then I CC them to save my butt because they're doing that, you know, and it was a mess. I had this one consulting project where I came in and it was a turnaround. They were in financial trouble. And I was so confused by all their processes that I had to draw a line code. This person communicates with this person, communicates with it. Well, it ended up being this crazy spaghetti drawing that I just then went into the company owner and I was like, you can't succeed in a spaghetti drawing. We got to get processes and this person communicates this. And that's such an important aspect. And as far as recruiting and hiring, it's funny because I was always the one that did the final say when I came in as the CFO or the CEO or whatever. I would come in the recruitment process, and I would get people to actually hire me just to do the final interview because I would pick up on things that nobody else picked up on. And I would always say, it's not that I'm telepathic, I'm not a genius. I didn't have an emotional desire to have the person in.
Right.
So I paid more attention to what was actually being said than what they wanted to be said. So I am going to, before we leave the recruitment, I'm going to take you down the other side because I know you've had this experience too. And it's one nobody likes to talk about: firing. How you have to know when it's just not working out, make the decision on what you have to go through. I've had to fire a lot of people as a advisor into companies, a lot. Talk about firing, Andrew.
I literally just had my hardest fire, and I'm more than happy to talk about it. He was with us for 8 months. He was our director of recruiting that we had just talked about, going through the process. But I thought his personality was amazing. I loved him as a like spending time with him and talking to him. He had good ideas, but the follow through didn't come through. And I think that when you realize, and I might have been late to the game because I felt it was my responsibility as the CEO to mentor, to train, to get him acclimated with what we're doing and set him up for success. And I think I took a little bit of the blame as the leader for not, like we were saying, training or setting up for success as we should. At the end of the day, it wasn't going to work, and I had to let him go. And those are the hardest conversations we can have when it's not, we all feel like when someone does something tragically wrong, it's easy to fire them, right? But when they're not performing, or we know that their skills don't correlate to the positions that we need them to correlate to, they're no longer a fit for the role, and it's time to either move them to a different role. Do we have the right people in the right jobs? And if we don't, can we move that? Is that the right person? Can we move them to a different job? Those are the things. And again, those are the things I learned on my way and through that book Traction. Right people in the right jobs. I will tell you this, it's better to let go of someone who's failing, and we know that they're not going to succeed. And the company will always understand your culture. They're going to probably say to you, why didn't you do it sooner? Yeah. Not, I can't believe you let, provided that we're letting the person go for the right reasons. I mean, I'm all about being open and honest, and culture to me, and we're going to go into this in a little bit, but culture is the most important part of our company. There's a quote: culture beats strategy any day of the week.
That's so true. I always say that I would go into companies, small companies, had no funding, had no access to anything, were really the underdog, but they had a strong culture, a strong we can do team, and it made all the difference in the world. Before I went for I don't even think you know this, but before I went for all my finance and business degrees, I had a 2-year degree in biology and science and research, right?
Makes sense.
Nobody even knows that, right? I started college at a very young age. I did. But anyway, because of that, I picked up this saying in business about, letting someone go. You can't kill the host. And I'm not trying to be mean like this person's killing the host, but when you have certain people that are not well within the organization, it harms the host, and the host feels it. Going back to people saying, why didn't you do it a long time ago? By the way, on Traction, Gino Wickman, one of our audience just put into the question and answer. That's the
Thank you.
by Gino Wixman. But it's so true that, it just comes to a point that you have to make good decisions on that. So I want to walk into marketing, and I want to bring another word when I say about marketing. And that's, one of my things I like to bring up, and that's the word about strategic marketing, being strategic in your marketing. And like you said, your marketing changed throughout the pandemic, and it's something that always has to flow. What I'd like to have the audience understand is that, I guess I want to say it this way, Andrew. I'm going to cut to the chase and make a short sentence out of it, not to be disrespectful of Instagram, but just to communicate something. Marketing is not just getting an Instagram photo. There's a strategy and a thought, because I feel like too many times, especially today, people think marketing and they think throw some money at Facebook, throw some money at this, throw some money at that, rather than sitting back and think. Can you comment on what you're doing for your company, how you advise others on the strategic marketing side of things?
First of all, if you don't have a strategy, you're wasting money. That's the first thing. To me, marketing is a holistic approach. It's not a one-channel approach. So what does that mean? That means your website has to be up to date. Your social platforms have to be up to date. Your Google ads. We're rolling all different pipelines or outlets with the same messaging, right? My whole thing about marketing is, who's your target market? How do you get in front of them? And what do you say when you get there? So, target market, once you understand specifically who your target market is, you can craft a message for them that resonates with what they're looking for. And I give this example in my business plan workshop, but at one point we realized that marketing agencies were hiring more than one of our VAs. So we created a landing page on our website for marketing agencies. We started a cold email drip campaign to marketing agencies with between 5 and 50 employees based in the US. And we were looking at CEOs, managing partners, and owners, okay? And then we created content based on how a virtual assistant could help marketing agencies grow. So
how it can help. I like that. Let's catch that. I think just figuring out and making sure your message tells somebody how you can help them. If I can just turn the words ever so slightly. Sure. I see so many people get really cute and clever with the marketing, but they forget to tell me just the basic thing. How can you help me?
Yeah. I mean, that's just one strategy of it. I mean, you have to remember, I have marketing for clients. And then I have a whole nother side marketing towards my VAs, virtual assistants. So the marketing towards virtual assistants, much more fun, right? It's got a much more, because we want this to be an environment that you want to work in. My other motto, and this goes throughout my whole company, a happy VA is a happy client. And so what does that mean? If you get someone who's really excited and happy and passionate about their job, they're going to do a really good job. And so my goal is to pay my VAs more than other companies, to give them benefits that they wouldn't have at other companies, to create support from my success managers that they don't normally get, to make them feel welcomed and wanted and needed, and to really make them feel valued. And so all of that is what I put into my marketing campaign for the VAs. And we market on LinkedIn, which is more of the business side of it. Then we market on social media platforms. We market on our website. And all of that is trying to create a clear picture of what it's like to work as a virtual assistant for Work Better Now. But on the other side, marketing to clients, again, our message just changed. We're actually in the process of redesigning our website right now. We had an initial website when we first started. Then we were making some money and we hired a company and we had another website. And again, I was telling you how the messaging really has transcended what original virtual assistants are. So now our messaging has changed. And so it's, what roles can they fill? How experienced are they? Really talking about the value of our VAs much more than any cost saving or admin role. That it's more of a holistic approach to how you can use one, and that messaging needs to be consistent on all of our platforms. Go ahead.
Yeah, No, I was going to say, what's really interesting about, I always say, and let me see if I can explain what I mean. Your type of company to me is always seems to be the most challenging. The reason being is, like you said, you're marketing to the customers, right? And then you're marketing the VAs. When you have human capital of any source that you're gathering, collecting, and then presenting for sale in a way to customers, it's so challenging because you've got to make an equilibrium between the right amount of people available for the task in demand to the customers, because you can't create a widget, put it on the shelf and say, oh, it's in inventory. You don't give the VAs enough work, they're going to have a job and not be available to
Correct.
you. You don't have a VA ready for a customer, they're not going to be a customer. So I always have seen those type of staffing relationships the most challenging, and operationally has to be dead on. I don't even know what the question is I'm saying other than an observation, and I'm going to throw it back at you.
I'm just going to bring that right back to our KPIs, which is we have to have a certain amount of VAs that are already onboarded and ready to go for every client in the pipeline. So it's a number. And like I said before, we have it's a procedure where we know, okay, if we need this many VAs, we have this many people who are looking to hire, we need this many VAs to interview, which means we should spend X amount of dollars on marketing for the VAs.
And what I love about what we're talking about is how it all funnels in. And I wanted to go back and just say KPIs are key performance indicators, guys, that if you're not familiar with them, I've worked with them a lot when I, get involved with investment banks and everything. You have to use KPIs, but they should be used in every aspect, even the smallest company that's selling at the farmer's market, because in essence, it's just understanding a certain percentage or level of activity that has to be engaged in to achieve a goal and following it. It's kind of like watching your weight. If you want to lose weight, you're measuring your calories and you know this amount of exercise. So it's identifying activities that lead to results. So I just wanted to come back and explain KPIs a little bit more. But what I like where I'm coming with it now, Andrew, is that what you're doing is you're integrating every single department within the company. You're helping people to understand how you've got to achieve this to be successful, but then you've got a measurement to achieve something over here. And I'd like to take that thought and tie something that's kind of true to my heart, and that is marketing, investment, and activity should translate back to financial return. I see people investing in the money for marketing, but then the Facebook says, well, you got so many hits, you got so many this. And I say, well, it should be $1 that should show up on the net income or somewhere in the gross profit margin or something. So and not in the gross profit margin, but I meant in the gross profit where you have the overhead to pay for it. In other words, I'm trying to use a connection between marketing and finance that doesn't get looked at like it does in big companies. If the marketing department goes outside their budget, or if the finance department doesn't see an uptick in sales, they don't give them the budget. Talk on that for a bit, Andrew.
I agree with that, except for one situation where we're a new company looking for exposure, right? If we're someone that you don't know and you're trying to get your name out there so people become aware of who you are, it's not going to translate right away. I have a business coach, and he was in the marketing. He was a marketer, and he started throwing this annual convention for networking event / convention for other marketing agencies, and they spent a lot of money on it. It was probably like $70,000 a year that cost them, and they didn't see a direct return, but they saw an indirect return from new clients that were coming to them 6 months later that knew who they were through this. That's one aspect of it. As a small business, we might not have that capital to spend on a non-returnable on business we don't see back. I am always calculating how much is everything costing me, which means I have a dollar amount for every application that comes in. I have a dollar amount how much it costs me. For every VA that was approved, I have a dollar amount for how much that cost me. For every VA that was hired, I have a dollar amount for how much that cost me. Same thing with every one of our marketing strategies. From we do outreach via certain campaigns, or we'll do Google ads where it's really easy to get that feedback. but you really have to know your lifetime value for the client, and then also how much does it cost you to get that client. Because if your lifetime value, let's say, is $10 and it costs you $7 to get the client, it's not feasible. But if let's say it's $100 lifetime value and it only costs you $2 to get that client, well, let's spend a lot more money trying to get those clients. You'll be able to grow your business and have an understanding of how much invested will be how much returned.
You know, I would also talk when people would do a lot of proposals, like for government contracting and stuff, and they wouldn't get certain amount, but they had to take their key staff engage in those proposals. I say every time that they lose those jobs, they actually are costing the ones they actually got, because
Correct.
You have to understand, people have this concept and they say, well, that didn't cost me anything. And I always say nothing in life is free at all. Nothing. There's
Time is money.
Time is money. Well, you know, Andrew, you and I could talk forever. That is given, but we're running short on time. So I'm going to throw those hard questions on you. Ready? Now, this comes from both being an advisor as well as a business owner, plus in a bunch of industries, and plus old like me, Andrew.
Experienced.
Yes, experience, exactly. You know, you were to just say wherever you want to put it in your words, but, you know, what have you seen that companies do right when they succeed and do wrong when they fail? You know, that famous question, word it to however you'd like to answer that, Andrew. You got a lot of experience. It would be very interesting to hear your input on this.
Again, it's funny. I really think that what companies do right is build the right culture. Anytime someone's hired within my organization, we beat the culture into them because we want them to understand, you know, what we stand for, our values, our mission, our vision. And Tony Hsieh was an amazing CEO and entrepreneur, brought that to light when he said he sold his first company for like $200 million because the culture was a failure, and he didn't think he can get it back. I think that when we get everyone working towards the same goal with the same mission and the same vision and the same passion and the same values, we have such a better opportunity for success. And that's my main outlook on it.
Now, can I also expand upon that? If you're just yourself, but you're outsourcing and you have all these partners, you're outsourcing to a manufacturing, you're outsourcing here, which a lot of our clients are, it's the same thing. You've got to make sure you've got a team, whether they're under your umbrella legally, employees, etc., or if they're part of your partners. Because even when you say it's just me that this company, which is a lot of our clients, it's not really. They're connected to a lot of outside people. So comment on how you extend that building a culture to when your resources are such an important part of your infrastructure, if I could word it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that. It's how we communicate with people. It's what we expect from people. It's our values that we operate with. And I agree with Lori, where every sort of person we interact with should understand what our company culture it feels like. Whether it's the vendors, you know, are we paying on time? I know these are, you know, it's really like, okay, if I make a deal with the vendor, I want to pay on time. You know, my culture is we're going to set a date. I'm going to pay you, and I expect you to deliver. And I want to give you the best I can. Please give my product the best attention you can. Care about it. And so that's sort of the interview process before you even sign the deal with that contractor or that manufacturing company. And what I do a lot of the times also, even if it's, you know, we're looking for a new software platform right now, we call the other clients that they're dealing with. Hey, how do they handle these situations? What do you think of their integrity, of their values as a company? I don't get into business with anyone that I am not 100% sure of, or there's any sort of negative agenda. I just don't do it.
Me neither. You know, I always say, I don't care if it's whatever you're doing, it's about the relationships. It still is. It's all about the relationships. And I always tell people, I go, you know, sometimes, as you know, as an Sbdc advisor, especially during the last 2 years, we get in many heart-to-heart conversations that are very challenging to get in. And so many times, not to be too philosophical, but I always say, well, to somebody, well, this is something you might as well figure out here, because if you don't figure it out here, it's probably going to be with your son on the soccer game or something else. You know, it's like we're facing the same type of questions about moral decisions, about how do we handle situations. I don't care whether you're a billion-dollar company, a company of one, you're a startup, or you're dealing with just going to the grocery store. They really end up being a lot of the same decision-making processes and thoughts.
I'm just going to add one last thing to that. I had a client that had hired a couple of VAs, 3 VAs from us, and 2 of the VAs had quit. He replaced another one. And finally he said, you know what, I want to hire another one. And I said, no. I said, I can't allow you to hire another VA from us because it's really affecting the culture of my people who are coming back to me after they're with you and saying, I don't like that person. And so why would I want to take VAs that trust in me and my company when I'm promising them a future of a great work environment and then putting them somewhere where I already know it's going to be negative? I can't do it. So I'd rather dismiss the client and make the culture within the company even stronger, because think about how everyone's going to think about us now. We support our people. So another one of the things is every decision we make is to benefit the VA. So the virtual assistant, because again, our motto, happy VA is a happy client. And so everyone on our team knows that.
Oh my God, you're bringing back so many interesting memories, because I can remember a long time ago, I'm in my 20s, when there was a client that was really being unkind to my employee. And I had a choice of holding on to the only client we had or letting them go. And I let them go because I could not deal with it. And we ended up getting another client the next day. This talk has been like a walk down memory lane for me. But Andrew, thank you so much. You brought so many gems. Guys, take advantage of Andrew's business plan that's coming up if you want to get in touch with him. Andrew, do you want them to contact Annie? Annie can put the information in chat for you. Annie, go ahead, put your information in chat for them so they know how to get in touch with Andrew. That would be awesome. And I want to have you come back, Andrew. We could talk and talk and talk
for hours.
Pleasure. I finally corralled you in to come on the show, and it's been great.
And it was painless. Thank you.
I told you it would be fun, didn't I?
You did.
I said I try to make it fun. You know, I have a motto in life: if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it. You know, I had a big range of fun, and sometimes I have to say, how can I turn something into fun? But that's the thing I like about this show. It's a really good opportunity to learn and get experience, but have fun along the way. And you know what? Business should be fun because we devote too much time to it for it not to be.
Agreed.
Speaking of fun, Lauren, come on back and join us and close this down for us, Lauren.
I'm back. I was just putting in that, reiterating the message from Annie. If you all would like to get in contact with Andrew, please be sure to shoot Annie an email. I've got it in the chat again right now. It's sbdc@pasadena.edu. Andrew, thank you. This was awesome.
You got it.
This
Nice
is really
meeting you guys.
cool.
Okay, everybody, Andrew and I are going to take off. Lauren's going to stay back and do her last thing. If you need to get in touch with me, do so through Lauren. Thank you for being there, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thanks,
you. Lori. Thank you, Andrew.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Please look to the chat. Oh, that's funny. Oh, nice, Marty. Cool. Please look to the chat so that you can get in contact with Andrew. You'll be reaching out to Annie. Annie, thank you so much. She holds down the Pasadena Center for us. She can be reached at sbdc@pasadena.edu. And then let's see, I included the link for Andrew's next webinar. It is July 22nd at 11 a.m. Again, grab that link from the chat. And then, yes, we do have shows available. They're on our YouTube. I've got the link in the chat as well. Today's show will be added a little bit later today, at the very latest tomorrow. And with that, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the week. It's Wednesday. We're almost at the weekend. And take care. Oh, what's our YouTube? Let me put it back in the chat again. I will do that right this second. All right, there you go. No worries at all, Maria. There you go. And I'll hold on 2 seconds so you can grab it. Awesome, awesome. Thank you, everyone. Please take care. Okay, great. I'm glad you got it, Maria. You guys have a good one. Thanks. Bye. And thank you, Annie.